Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We are loaded up today, man. We're going to have some fun, plenty of things going on in the world of sports. An incredible NBA finish that took a little extra time. Objections, Your Honor, when it comes to foreign substances in Major League Baseball. CBS Sports is out with their predictions, win totals, and they've already called their shot, wins and losses. Where does Nebraska figure into the mix? We'll chat with Mike Babcock, HailVarsity.com and magazine in my hand. Oh, yes, it is the Hail Varsity yearbook with Big Ben Stilley on the cover. I have one for you too, Elijah.
That was the next question I was going to ask. Was like, well, I this past Christmas bought my dad a subscription to Hail Varsity, bought my brother a subscription to Hail Varsity, but I didn't buy myself a subscription to Hail Varsity.
Well, there's thankfully we still get some issues sent here.
Well,
it's kind of like
so.
It's kind of like but it's kind of like Billy Madison. It's not quite Nudie Magazine Day, but hey, the yearbook is here. Incredible work by the staff. They are phenomenal. They are the best there is in college, and it's nice. It's nice. The yearbook's money, and plenty of Husker indulgence to come. So, Babber's on the way here in 20 minutes. Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. We'll get Shuey's take on the U.S. Open and see how the Divot Dogs are doing. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, it is it's the top dog with Mississippi State. Football, the Pirate, Mike Leach. We will check in on him down in Key West. And he is a huge baseball fan. So we will talk to him. His first job that got him hooked on coaching was as a baseball coach in junior high. So we will have plenty of fun with the Pirate in the 5 o'clock hour. It's about a 25-minute chat with the Pirate, so you're going to want to stick and stay for that. We'll have a Jock Doc coming up here on Win Oh Win. Kawhi Leonard can get back with Dr. Ben Woodhead. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Find us on Twitter, Chris Schmidt, at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. And email Chris at HailVarsity.com. Tomorrow we are on the road at the College World Series again with our friends from Zipline, just right near TD Ameritrade Park, 721 North 14th in downtown Omaha. So come see us if you're heading up. Intriguing ball game tonight with Stanford and Vandy. I did not stay up. I cooked a little dinner and crashed. But the NBA is getting pretty juicy. I mean, it's just getting absolutely juicy. And what a finish with the Suns. Our dear friend Jacob Padilla is smiling about his Suns. Anton, a nice tip dunk that was not violation above the cylinder. And then you had Paul George go clankety clank clank, which is too bad if you're a Paul George fan. For that finish. Baseball was nuts last night, no pun intended, with the amount of uniform removal last evening. So we'll get to that.
Well, and not to mention College World Series last night was a great game.
I was getting there with what Callum Clark and Tanner Allen did. I mean, you're getting worked. You're getting small balled to death by Virginia. They're a class act, great program, not too far removed from a championship. And you're down 4-rip, and here comes the top of the 8th. Hell, let's put up a crooked number in the form of the long ball. So that was incredible, and that game was pretty quick last night. Actually, I was listening to it on the way home, and man, what? Never say die, right? I mean, never say die in baseball.
Yeah, you say going pretty quickly. That's what happens whenever you get no hit into the 8th inning. But then I think that top half of the 8th, where they made, I mean, how many runs they score? 6 runs in the top half of the 8th.
All 6.
Yeah, and they ended up. I think that half inning took like a good half hour. That's baseball for you. But just pure excitement up in Omaha. That's what the College World Series is all about, is those fans were into that game last night despite the fact that one team was being no hit into the 8th innings. That was awesome.
Here's the thing. Baseball's been so joyous, and if it's played right, defense, good pitching, it's not a merry-go-round of walks, and then you get the big hit. You get something brewing. And the drama of baseball is so much fun, where you're down to 2 strikes or you're down to 2 outs, and you just have one of those money at bats where you foul off a pitch, and then you turn on one. And Mississippi State turned on a couple last night, a 3-run shot, and then the 2-run shot. So it was impressive. And, you look at the fan bases, and I'll say this here. Nebraska fans, you are legendary and phenomenal with, your travel, and we've all experienced it growing up. You picked that one game a year to go to on the road, especially when it was the old Big 8 or Big 12. It was drivable. But Nebraska fans invade, have a good time, drink your beer, and I'll pat you on the back. Nebraska fans, legendary for their travel and their spending, quite honestly. I mean, Nebraska fans have been great at drinking a lot of beer in Manhattan, in Ames, they ran out of Coors in the 97 Colorado-Nebraska game. I kid you not. We were staying at the Harvester. Golden, Colorado's 15 minutes away, and they're out of Coors. They're out of Coors Light. And it was, Nebraska fans are great. Tell you what, the SEC fans, I know LSU fans get after it, but Mississippi State fans, man, they were loving life, and they party hard. I mean, you got the Ole Miss fan that they get after it with the hard stuff. Elijah, you've been in the outfield down there. Mississippi State fans get after it with the suds.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like people all say that in Nebraska, like, oh, what else is there to do besides watch football in Nebraska in the fall? And it's true, but what else is there to do in Mississippi besides, I don't know, is it drink beer and eat roadkill? Like, what do they do down there?
They
I don't
were
know.
fresh out of roadkill. I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick butt, and I'm out of bubble gum, right? Well, beer drinking to a new heights is what I was told last night from a friend that was at the game. So let's get into some Nebraska football thoughts. So how does 6-6 grab you? Buy, sell, or hold? Well, you've got the Big Ten win total projections and odds by CBS Sports. So that is not my phone, I promise you. That is a Facebook ad. The speaker was left up. It isn't naughty time. I was like, what's playing? Oh, it's a seductive Facebook ad. Good. Computer's on mute. Okay. So Big Ten, win totals, odds, predictions, and Ohio State and Wisconsin. Shock. They're your favorites for each division here. But Tom Fernelli got after it here and kind of went through things, and this is with William Hill Sportsbook. So we're going to look at Illinois for just 2 seconds because that is the opener. That is the biggest opener for Nebraska football in a long time when it comes to feelings and optimism. And, do you get off on the right foot if you're Nebraska football? 3.5 wins for the Illini. They beat Maryland. They beat Rutgers. And allegedly they beat Northwestern this year. So they have Illinois at 5 wins. The line is 3.5 right now, late June, over or under 3.5. Looking at their schedule, they're at Virginia. They have Nebraska. I think if they beat Nebraska, they absolutely go over 3.5 wins. They could be a 5-win team. But what kind of start do you get off under a new regime? They play Penn State. They play Wisconsin. They're at Minnesota. They're at Iowa. They'll bite somebody. They pray that it isn't Nebraska. I don't think they beat Northwestern. I don't think they beat Maryland. They probably beat Charlotte. They probably beat University of Texas San Antonio. I'm going to say I'm going under. 3.5, but if they beat Nebraska over, can I amend that?
Sure.
When we look at Nebraska, Iowa's in at 8.5 wins. Indiana's at 7.5. They take a bit of a step back. And Maryland right at 6 wins. Michigan at 7.5 wins. Sparty at 4.5. And then you have the Gophers at 7. Nebraska right at 6. That's the number. Over, under, or just right. They say Nebraska wins at Illinois. They say Nebraska gets Fordham. They beat Buffalo. They beat Northwestern. They beat Purdue. They finally stop the Iowa streak. Nebraska's losses at OU, against Michigan, at Michigan State, at Minnesota, at Wisconsin, Ohio State. I think if Nebraska, here's what's huge. Nebraska needs to start 3-0. They need to get out of September 4-1, right? They need to get out of September 4-1. That means you bounce back and respond. If you lose by 3 or by 30 in Norman, you need to go beat Mel and Sparty on the road the following week to end September. 4-1 September. It's got to happen. Needs to happen. Can happen. Nebraska's a better football team right now as we talk, barring insane fall camp injuries, than the teams they face in September, not named Oklahoma. 6 wins. I in late June am going to go over 6. I'm going to go over 6. It's not ink. I will take 6. I don't think Nebraska will lose to Sparty. I think Nebraska can beat Iowa. I think they can beat Northwestern. I think they should beat Purdue. They should beat Michigan, Minnesota, or Wisconsin. They need to go 1-2 in that 3-game stretch. Oklahoma and Iowa and Ohio State, they're off the table, right? Everyone else is a coin flip or probably a 7 to 10 point ball game. If we want to get real serious about what Wisconsin may be, Ohio State and Oklahoma, they're double-digit favorites over Nebraska. Is Nebraska double-digit underdog to Iowa? No. Are they a double-digit dog to Purdue or Northwestern or at Minnesota or Michigan? No. Nebraska, once again, Elijah, is loaded with 1,000 50-50 games, right? And when we talk about your feelings, your optimism, your patience level with Nebraska football and what 6-6 looks like, if you're 500 with this schedule, that's great. If you're bowl eligible with this schedule, that's progress. And I'll say this, if you improve your record in one-score games to 3-3, you win some of them, you lose some of them, that also is progress where you're not going 1-4. Okay? I mean, that's all part of this building block here with 2021. Now, if you shock the world and you go get a win, a signature win, and there's a lot on the schedule that you can sign, Iowa would be a big win. Wisconsin would be a big win. Michigan and Minnesota. You go win at Minnesota. I think that's impressive. It's not the shock and awe of losing by a field goal in Norman or losing by a touchdown at home to Ohio State. But you're at the point right now that P.J. Fleck's a good football coach and Minnesota's a good program, but they're absolutely beatable. They have found ways to be decent in close games. Iowa finds a way in close games. Wisconsin and Iowa, whoever screws up the least in that annual bash fest ends up probably ruling the division that year. Then there's Michigan. And who the hell knows, right? Killer defense. Offense makes you want to dry heave. That's what Michigan is, at least coming into 2021. So 6-6, that's the number. Give me the over. And there's lots of ways to judge progress on Nebraska football. How competitive are you against your playoff favorites in Oklahoma and Ohio State? And where are you at against Northwestern that's at home. Nebraska's home schedule is great, but also difficult. Their road schedule at Wisconsin, at Minnesota, at Oklahoma, at Michigan State. You can go steal one at Minnesota. You can go steal one at Wisconsin or Iowa. You got to split one of those two to end the season.
I'm with you on the. I'm probably going over 6. The game I'm looking at, you said with Illinois, if Illinois beats Nebraska, you'll go over. If Nebraska beats Michigan State, I'll go over on Nebraska 6 wins. I think that's a good sign.
That's your turning point.
Because I think that is shaping up to me to be a one-score game, if not a one-score game, pretty close to a one-score game. And you said 3-3. I know you're just throwing that number out there, but look how many one-score games there could be on the schedule this year. When you look at Northwestern, that's always a close game. Purdue's been close the past couple years. Iowa, Michigan State. I could see Michigan being a one-score game. Minnesota could be a one-score game. There's a whole bunch of potential one-score games on here. So the key for Nebraska this year is just, can you be the good team that gets the win in a one-score game?
I think of your regular season, you're at 6 or 7 one-score games.
Mm-hmm.
You just are. We'll get Babber's take on this. The CBS Sports throwing out the over-under number at 6. Mike Leach, less than an hour away. The biggest baseball fan there is for Mississippi State, is there at the College World Series. Mike Babcock next. It's Hail Varsity. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio midweek edition. We're not quite to the weekend. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we'll spend time with Mike Leach here coming up a little bit after 5. We say hi to Mike Babcock with Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com, at MD Babs on Twitter. Babbers, what do you know? How's your Wednesday going?
Well, it's going okay. Looks like a nice day, kind of warm. Be nice warm. If we got a little rain.
A lot warm. No, I get you.
Yeah, a lot warm.
So
True.
I'm going to ask you about the CWS, and I'm going to ask you about the NBA. What sporting finish, I guess, do you like the most? Last second field goal, touchdown, walk off in baseball, last second in basketball. What's most thrilling for you?
Oh, I like the baseball thing, and I haven't been following the NBA except that I want the Suns to do well. That's Jacob Badillo's team. So,
yes.
And Greg Smith's Lakers got eliminated, so that's not a factor. But so that's my interest there. But I stayed with the baseball game last night, the College World Series, thinking that I might see a no-hitter, and I did for 7 innings, and then things just fell apart. But that's pretty exciting when you look at the dynamic of that thing, and the guy hits a home run to get Mississippi State on the scoreboard, and then they get another one, and baseball is a tough thing. It's a tough game because that pitcher just had a remarkable performance through 7 innings, and that's what happens. And he was in control of that batter. You thought, but not really.
One mistake, and it's launched. 2 mistakes, you're down.
Yeah, and the thing is, the ballpark there is not just like home run friendly. I mean, it it has some dimensions. You've got to hit that ball, and that guy certainly did to get things going.
Babber's going to switch to some football here, and a thought here is CBS Sports out with their Big Ten projections here. When it comes to over-under win totals, William Hill's a sports book that is setting the line. And I'm going to start with Illinois. And I know that's Nebraska's opener. I know there's a lot of eyes on that. It's week 0. How big of an opener is this, in your opinion, when you look at the scope of Nebraska football? And I'm asking not to pour salt on the hot seat discussion. I'm asking because Well, I mean, Nebraska struggled with Illinois, quite honestly, the last 4 or 5 years. So it's not an easy opener despite who Illinois has been in the Big Ten. Nebraska's not been much better. And, oh, by the way, here's Brett Bielema back in the Big Ten West where he's done pretty well.
Yeah, well, but I think that's the key is that there's a transition. You know, Illinois is going to have a transition to a new coach, a new system or whatever, and this is Illinois' first game right out of the chute. So, but I think it's critical that Nebraska wins that game. You know, I know that CBS Sports probably read my Hail Mary column and realized that 6-6 was where it was going to be. But for Nebraska to be 6-6, in my mind, that has to be Illinois has to be one of those 6. And if you don't get off with a victory against Illinois, it just changes your mindset. I mean, part of it's mental that you got to overcome, and you can't afford to lose to Illinois going into the season as your first game. Then you've got a little bit of a break, I guess. After that with Fordham and. Nebraska shouldn't be playing for it, and there's no question about that. And then you play Buffalo, and as I pointed out, if Lance Leipold hadn't left Buffalo, I wouldn't necessarily mark that down as a win because I think Leipold did a tremendous job at Buffalo, and I hope he does well at Kansas, but that's a difficult thing. But getting back to your question, to be 6-6, in my mind, Illinois has to be one of those 6.
Well, and Mike Babcock's with us here, Hail Varsity Magazine, HailVarsity.com. You know how negative energy can consume in this town and in this state. You get off with a win, you ramp up, you play better against Oklahoma, and then you get some confidence going to Sparty. We were just talking, 4-1 is doable and in some people's minds probably expected as you head into October. That would be pretty nice for Nebraska and Coach Frost in year 4.
Yeah, it would be. Now, here's another thing when we're talking about mindset and how you respond. So you go to Oklahoma, maybe it's not a one-score game. Maybe things don't go well there at Oklahoma, and you're coming off of an unpleasant loss there. What's your mindset going to East Lansing?
Exactly.
And so I think that it's important to play well there, but it's certainly important to have a good attitude going to East Lansing because I don't necessarily count that as automatic. You know that you've got to have the right mindset there, and this is going back to the Huskers beat Illinois to open the season. And then if your head's in a good place there at that point, yeah, I think you got a shot at Michigan State winning that game, even though it's on the road. But after the Buffalo game or after the Oklahoma game, I don't see any certainty. But you kind of broke it down. There are a lot of games that are could be's in terms of victories, and I would assume that's why Bill Moose made the observation that he did, that 8 or 9 wins was a possibility. I think that's a little bit extreme and puts adds to the pressure, but maybe that's the case. There are opportunities for Nebraska, and a lot of it depends on where the players' heads are going into that stretch after the Oklahoma game.
Now, Mike, one of the things I think is important in getting to 6 wins this year is protecting the home field, beating the teams you're supposed to beat at home. And that's something Scott Frost has struggled with in his first 3 years. I can't put it all on Scott Frost on the team as well. But when you look at the home slate this year, Fordham, Buffalo, Northwestern, Purdue, Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State, those 7 teams, what's a realistic win total expectation there? I think everyone's chalking up the Ohio State game as lost, but everything else seems somewhat winnable.
Yeah, and you're right. It's probably either or. 5 of the last 7 games are at home, so that's good. There's got to be a little bit of a good feeling there. Again, the mindset that you've got those 5 of the last 7, but you got to get things rolling to begin with. which means beating Illinois and having a good mindset coming out of Oklahoma and pulling a win at Michigan State. If you could do that in that way, then you've got 4 wins already, and you got 5 of your last 7 games are at home. You're looking at a situation where you could do better than 6-6. I personally think it's still going to be 6-6, but that's progress, as you guys have mentioned, and it's a bowl-eligible team, as you mentioned, and that's progress. Now, from a fan standpoint, probably not. But okay, so 7-5 are people going to be happy with that, or do they go to Bill Moose's statement that 8 or 9 is what needs to happen, or what could happen? I guess is what he said.
7-5 would be, you're going to look at this schedule on its face now and in July and before week 0, and you're going to look at the teams, you're going to look at the win total projections, right? You look at Northwestern's probably a 6 or 7 win team. Iowa's an 8.5 win team. Whiskey's a 9 or 10 win team, depending on how things break. Michigan's at 7, 7.5. Row your boats at 7. It's a lot of 7 wins. That's a lot of bowl-eligible wins, potentially. And I think it's about how you look. Yeah, you want the W, but how do you look? And I think that's been one of the most energy-draining parts of the last couple of coaches, quite honestly. How do you look in a loss? And that's something that I think Nebraska can handle. Nebraska's own business. You're going to see that thing flip, and there's your 8 or 9 from the Moose.
Yeah, well, and we're talking about, well, at least I am. I'm making it sound like Oklahoma's automatic loss, and you don't need to pay attention there. I mean, Nebraska is not going to go to that game thinking, well, this is a loss. Well, why are we going to Norman? That's just a waste of our time. Nebraska is going to be focused on winning that game. It's not automatic. Nothing's automatic. And so I'm not saying that from a team standpoint that they're thinking in terms of, well, we're going to lose Oklahoma, so we'll just look ahead and see how we got to do things. I think they'll go out and play to win. That's what you have to do. That you got to have that mindset. You never believe you're going to lose, and that's genuine feeling. So put that in the mix as well. But I think that's probably I got that marked up as a loss, and Ohio State's marked up as a loss. And you kind of broke it down with those other teams. I think there's, again, if the mindset's right and the start's right, Nebraska's in a position where it's either or in a lot of those games.
Mike Babcock's with us, Hail Varsity Magazine, hailvarsity.com. About 40 seconds here, Mike. MLB, you love baseball. Back to baseball. We'll finish with baseball. How do you feel about the pitcher's reaction with the foreign substance checks?
I wish they would handle it a little bit better. The umpires, the clips I've seen, the umpires are smiling, and I think they're handling it in the best way that they can. I mean, that's the rule, and they're instructed to enforce it. So I wish that the pitchers would be a little less demonstrative. But there are other ways for them to get substances on a baseball. I mean, I watched a Dodger game last night. Justin Turner always has that pine tar on his number on his back. You could pat him on the back and get some stuff on your
Giants fan on Dodger fan, right? I love that.
You got to watch those guys, and notice has the best record there.
You got to watch the Dodgers, says the Giants fan on the radio.
Sure for the Padres in this case.
No kidding. Babbers, this was fun. We'll get caught up next week. Appreciate you jumping in with us.
Hey, great talking to you guys.
See you, bud. There he is, Mike Babcock. Get the yearbook. Great stuff by Mike Babcock, specifically his feature on the 71 team. Awesome stuff. Mike Schuchart. Shuey's on the way from Wilderness Ridge. Mike Leach on the way in 20 minutes.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity Radio on a midweek edition. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Mike Leach, 20 minutes away. The Pirates on his Mississippi State Bulldogs. We will be in Omaha tomorrow right by the College World Series TD Ameritrade zip line, where we're going to be their downtown tap house, 721 14th Street, downtown Omaha. We say hi to Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, it's that type of day for a cold beer after 18. How are things at Wilderness?
Things are good. A little warm out there, but not much better to have a beer when it's that warm. So, tasty.
It's that Amen juice, right?
Got to have that.
All right.
Need all the liquid courage you can get.
There it is. Just go over the water. Go for it, Shuey. Go for it.
All right.
So I need the Divot Dogs update. How's the crew doing? I always want to start off Wednesdays with the youth program you head up at Wilderness Ridge. Super awesome what you do for the kids and what the kids learn from you. So how are things with them Divot Dogs? We need a standings update.
Things are good. We had our first match last Thursday. We played Firethorn Fireballs, and we took them down, beat them 7.5 flags to 4.5 flags, so good start to the season. We got our second match tomorrow against Hillcrest Hammerheads, so we're going to try to do some hammering ourselves on the Hammerheads. So I'm a little worried about tomorrow, though, because Miles, Mr. Miles, he can't play tomorrow. He's going to be out of town, so I got to kind of juggle my lineup.
Well, don't call Junior.
I'm noticing a lot of alliteration in these team names, too. Hillcrest Hammerheads, Firethorn Fireballs, but the Divot Dogs, not an alliteration. The Wilderness Ridge Divot Dogs. Did you have an alliterative name that you could have chosen, or has it always been the Divot Dogs?
We actually started out with the Eagles, but we were at practice one day, and one of our youngsters asked what all those things were laying out on the tee. So we came up with a story that those are called divots. But he says, well, when I come the next day to practice, they're all gone. Why is that? He says, well, they're divot dogs. Don't you know what a divot dog is? So he's out in the day. At night, he goes back into his hole, and then he comes back out. So that's where the name divot dog came from. He's a divot dog.
That's good. Mike Schuchart's with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf. So, Shuey, your thoughts on the finish and the excitement, the drama with the U.S. Open?
Pretty awesome. I mean, it's a fantastic finish. Super happy for John Rahm. You know, kind of karma because of what happened to him a few weeks back when he had to withdraw from Memorial with a 6-shot lead, you know, so... And just his finish, you know, and the excitement of the tournament, man, he poured in 2 great putts, how emotional he was, how exciting he was. So it made for great drama, made for a great golf tournament. And it was a great golf tournament. I mean, there was so many guys that were in contention, you know, to have a chance to win the tournament. That always makes tournaments that much more exciting to watch.
It was incredible, and you had all of the guys in contention. And then it was so difficult, Shuey, for the field to finish. I mean, you got past 10 or 12, and then it was bug and windshield time. The course took over.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine how difficult the golf courses are, U.S. Open setups. I mean, they're just so demanding and brutal, you know, and you are playing under those conditions for 4 straight days, and I mean, it just wears on you mentally, and one little slip up, and the course is just going to eat you up. And it did. I mean, guys are just mentally drained trying to finish those tournaments, and the course is just they're just so hard. I mean, the fairways are so narrow, the rough is so thick, the greens are fast, they're hard. Later in the day, they get bumpy, so it's a torture test is really what it is. You know, I talked to somebody that said, you know, they went and saw the U.S. Open, and it's like it was the best tournament and the worst tournament because all the players are so kind of grumpy. And it's like you'd be grumpy, too, if you just got beat on for 5 straight hours for 4 straight days. You wouldn't be too happy either.
Shuey, that's just it. And you touched on just what you're putting on, just how difficult putting would be. And you had some of the best putters on tour looking like me from 2 feet.
Yeah. If you as just a patron went to that golf course and played, you would walk off and go, this golf course is terrible, because it's like the greens are crusty, they're thin, they're bumpy, and it's like you wouldn't be happy playing under those conditions. But that's what USGA wants. I mean, they want to press it to the limit, and they want to test your skills, not only physically but mentally, right to the limit to see who can come out at the end, basically being able to overcome all of those obstacles.
Mike Schuchart's with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf.
Yeah, Mike, you talking about the whole mental strain here, and then I also saw on Sunday you had a streaker coming out and hitting golf balls off the fairways before he was eventually taken into custody. So would that be something that adds to the mental burden, or is that something that would take away and give you a chance to laugh?
Everybody's a little bit different. Some guys it would break up some of the monotony. Other guys would get pretty frustrated. I know I saw, just watching it on, I can't remember what hole it is, like 4 or 5, when the hang gliders are out there hang gliding around, it was distracting to a lot of the players out there. Other guys were going, hey, look at that, that's pretty cool. So everybody's so different in how they react to that.
So did you ever play in a tournament where there was a streaker?
Kind of. Not really run that we ran around the golf course, but I played in the Byron Nelson. And they have a big hotel that's right there and it surrounds kind of the chipping putting area. And there was a gal up there about mid-level of the hotel on the corner suite, and she just kept lifting her top up to everybody that was out there putting. So it's like, okay. So the putting green got pretty packed after a while.
Was it worth the view?
It wasn't bad.
Why is the green so busy? Oh, I see. The corner room. Shuey, what's going on with you? About 30 seconds here with Wilderness Ridge, as far as youth and memberships, and also, of course, the fits.
Yeah, we're hot and heavy into our junior programs. Divot Dogs practice and competition. Our junior league, we started that. That's a couple weeks in. We did our evaluations last week. We got another junior camp coming up in a couple weeks. So our junior programs are off and running. And we have PXG, the company. They'll be coming in Thursday and Friday, so doing fittings. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and our progress on our building slowly coming along. So it's going to be super fun when it's done. It's going to be super impressive, so can't wait.
Can't wait, Shuey. That is awesome. We'll check in next week. Thanks for giving us a few minutes today, bud. Stay cool.
You bet. Always. Take care.
See you, bud. There he is, Mike Schuchart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Go see Shuey. Get fixed. Get fit. And send your little one his way, and they'll start winning you money on the golf course. All right. 10-minute warning for Mike Leach. Hail Varsity continues. We'll wind down hour 1, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity Radio, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Again, if you're headed up to the CWS tomorrow, we are at Zipline, leading into the 6 o'clock first pitch at TD Ameritrade. Just around the corner from TD Ameritrade, Zipline, their Omaha Tap House, downtown Omaha. I want to see you there. We're live 4 to 6. And buckle up if you are going or if you're just out and about. A reminder that there's over 1,500 crashes each year in Nebraska involving an impaired driver, driving drunk, buzzed, or high. Never acceptable, and law enforcement officers are working every day to stop it before more people are killed or injured. If you're going to drink, please find a designated or sober driver or get a ride share. And get a ride. A DUI costs more than you think. This message brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. What do you remember last night about the finish? Is it the Anton alley-oop and the 11 minutes in real-time finish for the review? Or is it PG? and what happened to him at the free throw line.
Ball game.
Missed another, and the call timeout. Paul George misses a pair, and the Suns with a chance to win it with 7.8 remaining.
Oh, man. That was magic on Twitter, where it's the Paul George Gatorade commercial, ball game, and then you cut to the furious finish where, bang, you miss 2 key free throws. There's free throws, there's percentage, and then there's key moment free throws when it's to ice it or tie it or take the lead. And good luck and God bless simulating that.
And that was one of those ball don't lie moments. Like, I mean, anyone who's played pickup basketball knows ball don't lie. If like you call a foul and it was a weak ticky-tacky foul call, you're going to miss your next shot. It's just what happens.
Rasheed Wallace is so much the prophet with ball don't lie 20 years ago.
Yeah, and then last night you had the whole Patrick Beverley moment where he knocked it out of bounds, but it happened to be in Devin Booker's hand for a split second after Patrick Beverley hit it out, and everyone in that entire arena was expecting it to be Suns ball until they saw the replay, and you go, oh, maybe that did stay on Devin Booker, and no one wanted that to be to go the other way to the Clippers. That was one of those plays where it's, let's reset, let's give it back to the Suns. There's a good play with Patrick Beverley to knock it out, but instead you go to video replay, and then, okay, the Clippers get the ball, so obviously Paul George is going to miss both of his free throws. That's just the way the game works.
See, basketball karma. I'll say this, and listen, the job Ty Lue has done in L.A., we've always been fans of Lue, obviously, with his Nebraska ties and having a chance to watch him and cover him. He's awesome. And riding LeBron's coattails take, how credible is his NBA title in Cleveland? Dude can coach. Guys want to play for him. Guys will play hard for him. He's jacking around without Kawhi Leonard, and he still has the Clippers in the finals.
And he's out of a position to win both these last 2 games.
Yeah, they're right there, down a man. And Paul George is one of these guys that is uber talented, but is in his own head, And you got to be a guy that can step up and make those free throws. Conversely, Phoenix made the plays when it counted. All right, buckle up. The Pirates next. Mike Leach on the way.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. I tell you what, the fan favorite, one of them in Omaha, is Mississippi State. The Cardiac Dogs down 4-0 to Virginia and able to hang on for a 6-5 win. The biggest Mississippi State baseball fan, Mike Leach, head coach of Mississippi State football, the Pirate, with us. Coach, how was that game for you last night? What type of fan are you when you watch sporting events? Are you in the edge of your seat? You pacing around? Or are you just chilling?
I'm more of an observer. I want to see him play hard, play well, and play smart. Basically, I try to draw what I would do if I was coaching them. I play that mental exercise. I would do this here. I would do that here. I wonder if it'd be a good idea to do this or that. I do that whole game. And then and sort of try to challenge myself in those situations. And then the other thing, of course, I gauge everything by, are they playing hard? Do they stay in? Do they keep battling when they're ahead? Do they battle when they're behind? And then, of course, I started coaching baseball, so I really like baseball. And then, I just try to evaluate and see what I can learn, but then entertain myself with, what I've done in that situation.
Mike Leach with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, so I want to go back to that baseball coaching stint. Tell us about it.
Well, I started when I was 15 and through my sophomore year in college. I had a team every year, and it ranged, everywhere from, depending what year, from 9 to 15, And so, no, it was good. I thought it, I think there's a point to where coaching's coaching and, you're teaching. And I think I don't think I'd be coaching today without that experience. And because I really caught the coaching bug then. I was playing football and in high school, of course, when that started. So it was pretty tough for me to coach football while I was playing that. And there weren't a lot of football teams to coach in Wyoming at a young age. And then, but every summer, and Cody was a big baseball town, I had a team every summer and enjoyed it. It was, I had a ton of jobs. Wyoming was an easy place to get a job. And it wasn't some crazy child labor, I'm a victim bullshit either. It was a deal where it was very free enterprise, capitalistic entrepreneur at the highest order. I mean, I had a job since I was before that, since I was 12. I had this paper out, which that was the worst job I ever had. But no, we didn't have jobs because of some child labor thing. We had jobs because we were greedy. We wanted money, and we wanted to buy things. If you needed a new pair of Levi's, you wanted to be in a position to get one. You liked the Converse instead of the J.C. Penney's tennis shoes. You wanted to have the extra bucks, to add on to what your parents were paying to get the Converse instead, Can I go to a movie? Hell yeah, I could go to a movie. See this money right here. And so that's was kind of the motivation. But, we had some advantages. We had farming, ranching, tourism. And then, of course, tourism is the best for when you're a kid because of the restaurants, the lawns that need to be mowed and the rest. And then, but no, I had a job. I literally had a job since I was 12. I remember, and 12 is too early to have a paper out, especially in Northwest Wyoming, where you do it on a bicycle with driving wind and it might be 20 below zero. And part of the reason I've never been a morning person since.
It ruined you?
I had that morning paper out when I was 12, and it was so brutal getting up in bitter cold weather. And then, in Wyoming's kind of spread out, so it's kind of a spread out route. And I've never been a morning person since. When I quit that paper out, boy, I got up as late as I could from there on and have the rest of my life. And not to miss anything at night, And then, but then, and I had some great jobs. Some jobs are a lot more fun than you'd think. I'll tell you this, one of the funnest jobs I had was working at the Irma Hotel, a hotel that Buffalo Bill founded, and bussing tables and washing dishes because, there are a bunch of hot girls from high school running around there and just some regular buddies you could hang out with and talk in the back room and do your thing. Tourists would come through. They were fascinating and interesting. And, you got to where you remembered who ordered what. Oh, it was great. I mean, because there was a lot of personal exchange and dialogue, and then I worked at a mansion, which was one of the most coveted jobs. This guy was he was the founder and president of Husky Oil back when they had Husky oil gas stations, and that was founded in Cody. And, and everybody was jealous of that job because I'm, working at this pretty mansion. Well, the trouble with that job was, you're mowing a lawn all by yourself. You're sitting there in front of a flower bed planting flowers all day, all by yourself. You're trimming a bush all by yourself. The only time you ever saw anybody was if the head groundskeeper was ticked off about something or going to set you up for something new. And then there's one other grounds guy besides me. I'd see him at lunch, but other than that, you know, it was the most boring job. I could not wait to make half the money and go bust tables and wash dishes.
Well, it was all about the experience. Mike Leach with us. We're talking summer jobs, his love for baseball. So from a personality standpoint, what was your personality like? Were you more like a Lou Brown from Major League, or were you more like Buttermaker from Bad News Bears?
Oh, I tell you, my favorite guy who I loved the most, and it was kind of when he was on a roll bouncing between teams. I love Billy Martin.
I was going to say, you're a Billy guy.
Billy Martin was my guy. And that's back when he was bouncing from team to team to team. To this day, I've read every single book I can find on Billy Martin. And then I'll tell you one interesting thing. And I know a guy who somehow knew his son. And his son actually went to Texas Tech, but not when I was there. And what a great guy he is. And sometime when I get to Dallas or wherever, I need to get together with him, and I just want to hear the stories, you know, hear about his dad and all that stuff, and you know, because he for good or for bad, he definitely inspired me as a coach. There have been times where they said, you know, which coach inspired you the most to coach, and you know, of course, they want a football one, right? Mm-hmm. And well, it's Billy Martin, you know.
I love seeing him pull Reggie, watching the old baseball highlights. Him and Reggie just go at it in the dugout. Reggie wasn't hustling after a baseball. You're out. I don't care that you're making $1 million in the late 70s. That was entertaining. Mike Leach with us on Hail Varsity. Coach, where are you at? You getting a coffee?
Yeah, I am. I'm getting a colada, which is basically Cuban coffee. It's basically a double shot of espresso, except it's Cuban coffee, and they have a way of doing the foam so it foams almost like a milkshake with the brown sugar in it, you know. And for the most part, coffee tastes awful, and it's designed to, so you don't drink it too fast. But coladas are better, and then plus they jack you up pretty good. So that's the point anyway.
Coach, I was looking and I found that there's a book of Leach out, volume 2, some of your greatest quotes, and it just came out. And tell me about the instance, and maybe it's routine when it's time for an onside or a squib kick, but the squib kick it to a fat guy. When did that happen?
Oh, geez, I'll tell you what. That's a true quote, too. So we're playing Texas. And this is the famous game against Texas where we beat number 1 Texas in Lubbock. So Texas, because we knocked Texas out of 3 national championships, I believe. But
and Nebraska says thank you.
Yeah, and then, Texas, you know, so we throw the ball to Michael Crabtree scores. Our fans storm the field. Mm-hmm. Okay, then and then we kick the extra point, and then it's penalty to be assessed on the kickoff, right? Okay, then we kick the extra point. Fans storm the field. Another penalty, be assessed on the kickoff. And then something else happened. I don't know what happened. Anyway, they stormed the field 3 times. And you know, at nearly every other place in the world, there would not be an extra second on the clock. But, you know, Lubbock, which whoever that clock keeper up there is, you know, they need to find him a new one, because that guy's got some kind of Lubbock guilt, or just, you know, somehow doesn't think we deserve to knock off number 1 Texas. And we should have, worse than we did, because we got massively screwed on a offensive PI going in. But anyway, despite that, we overcame all that, stormed the field 3 times. So I look up, and of course we're ahead, and we are kicking the ball off from the -7.
Oh, no.
To the University of Texas. Okay, now, the slow guys at the University of Texas were faster than our fast guys. So, and so then we're looking out there, well, what do you want me to do? And, well, if we kick it way downfield, because they're going to do the toss from behind, kind of try to rugby toss the thing until they find their way to the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told the kicker, and I love the kicker, I think it was Matt Williams, and I said, squib kick it to a fat guy. And which he executed that beautifully, thinking that the fat guy doesn't have this good hand skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And better yet, he can't run with it once he gets it. Well, he squib kicks it to a big old thick guy, and this guy fields it like a shortstop. I mean, it looked like Ozzie Smith out there fielding a baseball.
Oh, no.
I mean, squib kick, second left. We get it one more shot. Oh, my God. He just, I mean, smooth. The ball's end over end smooth. And then he pitches it to, like the fastest guy out there, this skinny guy that's just faster than hell. And then fortunately that guy bobbled the ball, he bats it around, and then we pounce on it, game over, And so at any rate, so that's where squib kick it to a fat guy came from. And I thought it was better advice at the time than it was. This particular guy, he could field it and pass it, but fortunately his buddy couldn't. And then, but yeah, that guy's just kind of follows the newspaper, writes up some quotes and stuff. And I need to get that book. He signed and gave me the first book. And
that's cool.
I need to get this one, if for no other reason, to keep track of what I said so I don't forget, and so then and know what I'm up against,
Mike Leach with us, Hail Varsity Radio. He's down in Key West grabbing a coffee, talking with us, and we're talking a lot of baseball, squib kicking to fat people. Gotta love the Pirate. We'll have more with Coach Leach here next segment. Got that Havana coffee. We're talking about squib kicking to fat people. And there's your story behind the quote. And I asked him, his first gig was a manager that got him into coaching. And he still has disdain for all those days as a paper boy in Cody, Wyoming.
See, what he doesn't understand on the squib kick it to fat kids thing is, though, is as a former fat kid, anytime it was scout team, hands team, we're going to practice our onside, I'm volunteering first to get out there. I'm going to go catch a football.
Ball.
Yeah.
You can touch the ball and go Billy Bob. And
the fat kids might have more practice
Varsity
than
Blues.
The usual kids,
No. More from the Pirate. We'll dive a little further into that infamous Texas Tech 08 shocker with Crabtree taking it to the house. More with Coach Leach next to Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio listen?
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Mike Leach still with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Coach down in Key West and watching the CWS from afar. And Coach, I want to go back to that Texas game because I remember it pretty vividly, just the party down in Lubbock. I remember just the guts and then the execution. Take us back into the timeout, or just going into that play to Crabtree where you, and I don't think you called a timeout, but there was, you come back from commercial break, it's ABC, right? Musburger's doing the game. Things are rolling, you're moving the ball, and then you just keep on rolling, and you don't pause, but you had to discuss something, didn't you, going into that final drive?
The final drive, and it was exciting from this standpoint too. Some of the wounds self-inflicted. So we go, we're going in to nail the coffin shut on Texas. And so Michael Crabtree runs a corner route and fakes out the DB and just screws him in the ground. Never touches it. To this day, I hadn't touched him. And I know, I've watched that film, not just on the field, but I've watched the film like 10 times over and over because it's one of the most unfathomable calls I've ever seen. And so Crabtree catches it. It's going to be like 1st and 10 on the 4-yard line going in, which means not only are we going to score, but we're also going to get to eat the clock, right?
Right.
And so no, offensive pass interference, 15 yards back, all this other stuff, right? Yeah. Insane, okay? And then it's like, I don't know, something like 2nd and 25 or something. I'd have to look, but and all we got to do is just kind of put it in play. And of course, I think our team panicked a little bit, and we didn't play as well as we could have, because I thought that was quite a manageable, even though it was long. I mean, because we had shots, but we tried to throw to the end zone. All we really needed to do was just put it in play, and we would have been in good shape. But that's not what we did. So then we end up kicking a field goal, and we hit that, which that puts us up by 4. Or no, by I can't remember. It puts us up by
3 or 4, right?
Yeah, and then so then we kick off to Texas, and they go storming down the field. It did not take them long at all. And they go storming down the field, and they score. And then and so then we're down. We're down by 3, and I think we're down by 3.
Because you ended up going forward to try and get the touchdown versus the field goal as the game was winding down. Correct.
Well, we had some time. We still could have kicked the field goal, but had time for a play or two, and definitely at least one play. Mm-hmm. So he back shoulders Crabtree, which was a brilliant job to do, and then so he hits Crabtree. Crabtree runs right through the safety, scores a touchdown, and we work on that back shoulder all the time. Everybody says, "Oh, we underthrew it, but it worked." No, we work on that actually, and then so then he scores, and then of course that's where the fun begins with the
squib
kicking off from the -7. I've never even seen that happen, I don't think, but anyway, I was there.
Mike Leach with us, Hail Varsity Radio, talking baseball, Texas Tech over Texas, the infamous Crabtree catch and win. And Coach, I want to ask you this, and with Bill Moose and your relationship, when you do well and you succeed, Coach, you have Bill Moose that's been on the record about saying, "Hey, I reward my coaches who do well," and that's kind of on the horizon for Nebraska's baseball coach, Will Bolt. Really good guy, but great baseball coach. Phenomenal season for Nebraska baseball. But what's Moose like when you're doing well because you got to Wazoo, you built that up, you won. You won 11 games, for God's sake, and that was super impressive. But what's that interaction like when your boss comes to you and says, hey, great job, when it's AD to head football coach?
He's outstanding. Bill was a former team captain there at Washington State and, of course, played O-line. And those guys, I just think, oftentimes understand football, all that, and just I don't know, just it's if you're an old lineman, it means something important to you to make those kind of sacrifices, and Bill personifies that. And then Bill was wanted to win really bad and just so optimistic, just crazy optimistic. And then and then after you win, Bill would celebrate like a Viking with you. He just loved the whole thing.
Well, Mike Leach with us. Coach, we'll let you be. Enjoy Key West and get up to Omaha sometime. And we'd love to see you at the CWS.
Yeah, you never know because, good luck to Mississippi State. Hope we keep rolling, win the whole thing. Hail State.
Well, absolutely. We'll get caught up again, Coach. You take care and enjoy Key West.
All right, thank you. You too.
Coach Mike Leach, he's just walking around Key West, had himself a coffee. He was probably going to go grab some dinner. And that was no doubt fun, entertaining between the paper route stories, coaching, his love for Billy Martin, and the whole story on Texas Tech. You remember that. You were younger, but that's like one of those flashbulb moments in that 2008 season where you had a three-way tie for the Big 12. And little things, kick it to a fat guy.
And that was one of the games that made me love college football. Watching that Texas Tech-Texas game. That was incredible. I'll still go back and watch the highlights. That 2008 season is one of the best of all time. Just incredible stuff. And, I mean, that's like in my football fandom, that's a game that will always stand out in my memory.
Well, and a little earlier in that year, right, you had Nebraska going to overtime against that Tech team that was ranked in the top 10. So let's talk foreign substances. And it got uncomfortable for some yesterday, last night with baseball because of how the pitchers reacted. You had the blow up between Scherzer and Joe Girardi, Philly, and the Nationals. Joe Girardi here 3 times. He asked to have Scherzer checked.
I've seen Max a long time, since 2010. Obviously, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I've never seen him wipe his head like he was doing tonight, ever. Going like this, right? So it was suspicious for me. He did it about 4 or 5 times. It was suspicious. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I just got to do what's right for our club.
And Scherzer, furious. Here's my palms, slammed his glove down, took his hat off, took the belt out. And he was furious. More from Girardi here as to the other side of the coin here, why the Nationals were upset.
I can see it. And I don't have a problem if Davey's mad at me. I don't. But, I thought they were attacking me, and that's okay, too. I mean, hey, that's all part of it. But, again, we're here to win games, and I'm here to do right by our team, and that's what I'm going to do.
Girardi was a little much, asking 3 times. Now here's Max Scherzer, and his explanation. Did you not do your dandruff medication, Scherzer? What's up with grabbing and wiping your head like you did?
Obviously, Girardi, for me, it's, kind of confusing. If you watch the bomb at bat, I almost put a 95-mile-an-hour fastball on his head because the ball slipped out of my hand. The whole night I was sick of kind of licking my fingers and tasting rosin the whole night. So the only part, I couldn't even get sweat from the back of my head because it wasn't really a warm night. So for me, the only part that was sweaty on me was actually my hair. So I had to take off my hat to be able to try to get any type of, try to get some type of moisture on my hand to try to, mix with the rosin.
Last thought here from Scherzer as far as using an illegal substance.
I'm not just going to get into it. It's just, it is what it is. Just for me, it's when you look at how the game unfolded and you specifically that at bat, I don't, for me, I don't think I'd have to be an absolute fool to actually use something tonight when everybody's intent is so far high to look for anything.
Speaking of antennas, Sergio Romo for the Oakland A's almost went the end of Slapshot, and he whipped his belt off, pulled down the old baseball uni, and says, "Go ahead and check."
He looked ready to turn and cough.
Yeah, or it looked like it was his honeymoon. That's the best part of Twitter last night, was seeing, me when I get home from shore leave, right? Or, the pick NBA player when he goes on a 2-week road trip away from his wife,
As soon as they go hit Cancun after the season ends.
Right. You're ready to go swim it.
Toss that hat off, toss the glove off, belt's coming off.
It is. And you had, as Babbers eloquently put, demonstrative actions by pitchers yesterday. We'll see if there's a sequel to that or not. But good stuff. Check out the podcast. Give us a rating. We'd love your feedback, good, bad, or ugly. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Hail Varsity Radio. And tell us what you think. And check ESPNLincoln.com, the on-demand portion for some of the interviews today. Mike Leach to kick us off this second hour. And that'll also be up in its entirety. Our sit-down with the Pirate down in Key West. ESPN Lincoln on the Twitter handle. A Jock Doc's on the way.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back in, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Dr. Ben Woodhead with us. Ben, you enjoying the summer? Good to talk.
Yeah, I am. Trying to get used to this heat as it's starting to rise, but it's great to be out and doing things, I'll tell you that.
It is. A little golf, a little pool time with the family. That's the way to do it, man.
It's about as good as it gets, making up for last year.
Well, and a guy that is, pool bound, even though his team's still playing, the LA Clippers, man, and Coach Ty Lue's done a incredible job getting into the Western Conference Finals. They're supposed to be doing this with Kawhi Leonard. They are not, because he's out indefinitely with the ACL issue. And Dr. Ben, I'd like your take here on just what is going on with Kawhi, specifically getting into the difference between a rupture/tear and then just a sprain, because I know there's different grades that while you may not tear it, man, a sprain or a strained ACL can keep you on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're still a little bit in the dark on exactly what's going on with him. We just know that he's out. But, if you have the big injury where you actually rupture it, there's really not any grades in between there. You either tore it or you didn't. And it significantly will add to your rehab, because that requires surgery in a high-level athlete. If you do not take care of the ACL and reconstruct the whole thing, these athletes, they're going to have instability where their knee feels like it's basically sliding in and out if that is not reconstructed. And so that brings on a whole other set of rehab and recovery. And, you're at an increased risk of tearing it at a later date. Now, if you only had a sprain, you have your ligament that connects from your femur bone or your thigh bone to your shin bone or your tibia. And if you really just tweak that and stretch it out a little bit or injure it without fully rupturing all the way across, oftentimes those never need surgery. They'll heal down and they'll actually scar down. But the problem is you still got to take time off of it and rest.
That rest is so key, and it's not public, just the severity of the Kawhi Leonard injury. He has had a history of injury when you look at his quad and how things ended in San Antonio. And he was really careful with his return, and that rubbed some Spurs fans wrong. But his return was great, right in time for free agency, goes to Toronto, does his thing, wins a ring. And that's not something he's unfamiliar with. He's great and a great two-way player. When it comes to the rest portion, what are some exercises or some rehab, if we're talking sprain/strain of the ACL, that Leonard can maybe start doing if there is any sliver of a chance to get back to the NBA Finals, if that's where LA goes?
Yeah, it depends on the severity of the sprain or the strain. The hard part is that once you do have that injury, and if you didn't actually tear it, he probably has some swelling in the knee joint. And until his range of motion is full, the swelling is down, and he has no pain. If he were to go back in the NBA Finals, he's certainly at a higher risk of actually tearing that ligament. And, the hard part is there's never a perfect time, right, to have an injury like this. But there's certainly not a worse timing than during the NBA Finals. And so, your rapid impulses want to get back as soon as possible. But, at the same time, if he were to re-rupture this ACL, or rupture it, I should say, the ACL, that's going to put him out potentially next season. So you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and you got to make the best educated decision that you can on what's the safest for him.
What are some treatments that can happen for him along with the rest?
Yeah, and so the important thing is sometimes the quad can shut down in that interim phase after you do have the ACL strain. And so they'll keep his strength up. He'll still be doing hamstring strength, quad strength, working on his motion. Since the ACL is technically inside the joint, there's not a lot of true like ultrasound and soft tissue stuff that you can do for the actual ligament, but you can work on the surrounding symptoms like the swelling, like I said, the quad strength, and just make sure that by the time that he is feeling ready to go, that he is ready to go.
What's the remnants, Dr. Ben Woodhead's with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. We're talking Kawhi Leonard, a Jock Doc Wednesday. Say Kawhi gets back, and we don't know if that's going to happen or not going to happen, but say there's a small chance. And I remember instances where guys came back from injury and tried to give it a go. And there's been a lot of instances of football guys doing it. So you're back, you got this 7,000-pound brace, at least it looks like it on TV, and you're trying to go and give it your all. Is there more physical strain if you're playing dinged, or would you say, okay, that brace will do its job along with the rehab side? Is the mental worry almost cause you to be on the fritz a little bit?
I think these athletes, when they're not clicking on all cylinders, that mental aspect is probably the biggest hurdle to get over. When he's wearing a brace, the whole goal for the brace is to basically supplement whatever injury happened to his ACL, because the ACL keeps your knee stable. And so how that brace is allegedly supposed to function to keep the knee stable, right? So when he goes up to jump, when he cuts, when he pivots, it's supposed to help augment that ACL strength. And so yeah, it can do so much, but at the same time, a lot of it is that mental obstacle to get over, because these guys, they rely so much on their instincts that, if that's in the back of their mind, it can certainly pull them back from being 100%.
If you've got a really horrid sprain, a grade 3 sprain or strain, and you come back and say everything's been cleared, okay, but what about the fact you go forward, are you more likely to tear that ACL after a strain or a sprain?
Well, it depends on how much the strain or the sprain is. You can certainly tear, some of the fibers of the ACL or weaken them. It's kind of use the analogy of a stack of 100 sheets of papers, and say you tear 90% of them or 80% or 20%, you're weakening that ligament to some extent if you did have the partial tear or the sprain. And so you certainly, unless it scars in completely, you're certainly not going to have the strength that you had from your original ACL. So it certainly places you at a risk if all those fibers or all those ligaments do not heal.
Is there a greater propensity of tendinitis, discomfort after you've had a strain or a sprain, or once it heals, it heals?
Well, that's a good question, because, you're relying on scar tissue. If some of the fibers are torn, you're relying on scar tissue in that knee joint. And so, yeah, it's not like the the ACL necessarily that God designed, if some of that is scar that actually forms in. But if he just strained it and didn't tear any fibers and kind of tweaked the ACL, hopefully that'll be back to 100%.
Dr. Ben Woodhead's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, a Jock Doc Wednesday. Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Last thought here, Dr. Ben, when it comes to speed and agility and elevation, how vital is the ACL?
For speed-wise, straight ahead running might not be as vital as the cutting, the pivoting, the landing, the jumping, but that's essentially all basketball is. And so, it's different than other sports, sprinters, necessarily a baseball player who may not be affected as much, but basketball, the ACL plays such a huge role in the stability of the knee and how these guys function that I do think it does affect him, and he will notice if, he has a severe sprain or strain.
Dr. Ben, thanks for the time today.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, big thanks to Mike Leach, Mike Babcock, Mike Schuchart, and, of course, Dr. Ben Woodhead. Tomorrow we are on the road again. Sing it, Willie. Back at Zipline, the downtown Omaha location, just around the corner from the College World Series, TD Ameritrade Park. So we're there 4 to 6. You're on your way up. Come by, get a cocktail, and say hello and say hi to the great folks at Zipline. Tomorrow on the show, Pat Casey, former Oregon State head baseball coach, 3-time national champion. Get his take on the series so far. Gary Barnett to talk some college ball with us. Brandon Vogel, managing editor from Hail Varsity, will be with us. And the pride of Chicago, Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets. Are you fired up for another road show this week at the CWS?
How could you not be fired up for another road show? Get up there, just getting around the fans at the College World Series, even if you don't get into the game, just like the experience of Omaha during College World Series time is well worth it.
Well, and you know how packed the joint was with some of our listeners that were on their way up, which was awesome, but also all the NC State fans that were up there. Who are you feeling tonight? Are you going with Vandy or are you going with Stanford?
My mind tells me Vandy, but with their performances so far in the College World Series, I'm not sold on them so far because their hitting hasn't necessarily backed up their pitching. They got saved late in that first game, but then couldn't put up a single run. I mean, that what was it? Arizona pitcher on not Arizona.
Saturday.
Who is the pitcher on Monday night? Don't even know his name, but he had a lights-out game against Vandy. They couldn't put up a single run. And I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm sold on what they have outside of Leiter and Rocker. So I might be on Team Stanford tonight.
Well, and Stanford is battle-tested. Of course, your defending national champs are Vandy. A reminder about your friends at West Blue Realty. You are thinking about moving. Time to sell that house now that it's an all-time high price-wise. Are you looking because the market, it's selective right now with what is for sale? Let your friends at West Blue Realty point you in the right direction. Tom Luby, Kelly Hofsnyder do an amazing job, and westbluerealty.com is where you can log on and find out more info. Tom Luby, give him a ring today at 402-540-3768, or you can call Kelly Hofsnyder. Kelly's number at 402-202-2312. It pays to work with West Blue. You're buying or selling. It's an opportune time right now for you. And go take an appointment with them today. Tom Luby, Kelly Hofsnyder at 1120 K Street, Suite 200 in Lincoln. So busy night in Omaha with Vandy or Stanford, win or go home. And then ball games tomorrow at the CWS. We'll be up there 4 to 6 road show. CWS Zipline, downtown Omaha. Elijah's making the roadie. I'll be there. That'll be good stuff. Willie J. Will Wilson anchoring us back here in studio. Who you got tonight, Milwaukee or Atlanta? Milwaukee -8.
probably got to go with Milwaukee in Game 1 on their home floor, especially after that the emotions that they had to put out in that net series. You got to think they're still riding high.
I think so. We'll see if it carries over. Talk to you tomorrow from Zipline CWS. Take care.